So I do a lot of clay sculptures, especially as models for my paintings, and I wanted to kind of share with you my process. This is the skeleton that I wind up putting at the core of most of my clay sculptures, whether it's modeling clay or wet clay. This is not something I would do if I was ever actually going to fire it, but in part I do it because it's fun. I really like the systematic kind of anatomy, understanding how the structures work, but also I really appreciate having a pretty solid massing inside. So as I'm working in clay, if I decide I want to move an arm, I can just start moving limbs and the whole body will move right along with it. Clay will move along with the masses in the same way that flesh will move with bone. And it's how I get some of my better effects. So this is going to be for a live sculpture event, and I'm going to be sharing with you how I make these. And then in a second video, you'll be able to see a time lapse of me actually making the live sculpture next week. So let's dive in on how this guy gets made. Yeah, I call this dancing with wire. The real trick is just trying to stay out of your partner's way. The binding wasn't quite tight enough. So now it's a merry-go-round. Or a deadly maypole. And now the hips. If I can get it. There we go. Wait. Is this gonna need feet? And this is a new kind of arm wrestling. So, that was a lot of wire dancing, but I made it through and not a lot of blood. Now I've got a full-size, 3-foot-tall, proportional human skeleton done in copper wire, so I'll be able to pose them any way I want to. And a partner, respectively, if they've got masculine and feminine skeletal proportions, so I'll be able to have multiple characters in this case. Now I move on to the masses. So now I have the masses of the head, the rib cage, and pelvis. Not very pretty, a little small, but they're going to be in the wet clay, and whenever I move the figure or change the pose, the wet clay will rumple and bend around the wood the same way that soft flesh would rumple and bend around bone. Ain't gonna pop off now. So the pelvis is gonna wind up taking the most amount of punishment, mostly because the support for the stand is going to be attaching to this thing in addition to the pelvis, you know, just carrying the weight of the whole figure. So it has been screwed together, it has been glued together, and it's about to get wired together, so that way this becomes the most solid part of the sculpture skeleton. So the rib cage is an important mass, but it's not going to be carrying the same kind of stress that the pelvis is, so I'm only wiring it in. However, when I attach it, you'll notice I'm making sure that the scapula is free and actually pulled forward from the backbone a little bit. Most of our expression, our real state of being, is communicated through our shoulders. So for this sculpture and every sculpture that I'll use this skeleton for in the future, I want to have as much a full range of motion as possible. So the only attachment point will be right here at the pit of the neck. All right, the skeleton's done. Look at this beautiful thing, all proportionally done, so I can bend it while I'm working, and I don't have to worry about losing any of the proportions. As I twist the different masses, the clay will just move around the mass and behave a lot like flesh. It looks kind of cool as it is, so I'm almost afraid to cover it, but I know the coolness is only going to get cooler. Next step is going to be doing that stand.